You know the names, you've seen the plays, but what about the stories behind the game? Welcome to Honorable Mentions with Tanner Morgan and Quinn Carroll, two teammates turned storytellers, breaking down life, film, and everything in between. From locker room laughs to real world lessons, nothing's off the record here. This is Honorable Mentions.
Morgan to throw, has time, lost one near side for Tyler Johnson. He has the catch at the 10, down the sideline, touchdown! What a play! He's got all the double, the one at the 10, turns it up 5, touchdown! Minnesota Golden Gophers!
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Honorable Mentions podcast. I'm Quinn Carroll with Tanner Morgan. But since the last time we talked, the Indiana Hoosiers wrapped up their 16-0 season, national champs against the Miami Hurricanes. Tanner, let's get into it.
Yeah, episode 6, we're back, we're here, not going away. Indiana Hoosiers, 16-0, national champions, Fernando Mendoza. 2 crucial fourth downs that helped them go win the national title against Miami, in Miami, at Hard Rock Stadium, a well-coached team. I mean, I really do hope that they make a movie about this Indiana team.
Yeah.
And I hope there's a segment in there from Curt Cignetti's first press conference as head coach of the Hoosiers of I Win, Google Me. Because, I mean, first of all, to be able to say that, people in the conference and around the country were like, all right, dude, like, you're good. Are you serious? You're going to say Google me and win? Well, he was right. He won the national title at Indiana. I mean, that has got to be, and I don't think it's getting enough credit, nationally. Like, this is Indiana, went out, 2020, they had a good year. But besides that, historically, not a blue blood program, went out and won the national title by recruiting guys. And, they paid some good players in the portal and whatnot, but it's not like they had a top 50 talent roster or a top 15 talent roster in the country. But I mean, I just think it's insane that we're sitting here saying Indiana won the national title. And one, it's not crazy to us. And two, we're not making it, in my opinion, enough of a big deal as it is. I mean, obviously we're Pat Coogan guys here on this podcast, but tell me 3 years ago that Indiana was going to win the Natty, or when they hired Curt Cignetti. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't have bet that at all. What do you think?
No, I just love that the story wrapped up, right? Like, that national title game was close. And if it weren't for an interception at the end of the game by Carson Beck, it would have been scary. I mean, if they score and kick that extra point, they would have been up 1 point and could have ruined this, quote unquote Cinderella story for the Hoosiers. But I'm so glad it ended the way it did. And, all the scrutiny that they went through of nobody believing in them, even when they were winning every game, they go undefeated, go to the Big Ten title game to face Ohio State. Everyone thought Ohio State was going to win that game. They beat them. They embarrass Alabama, pretty much embarrass Oregon. Like, it was so much fun to watch and to have that story unfold the way it did. I'm just curious to see if they can keep it up, right? They lose the Heisman quarterback. They're losing a bunch of guys to the NFL draft this year. And I know they brought in some great recruits out of the portal again, but it seems to be more of a developmental coaching staff. Like, these guys aren't moving around. They're not taking head jobs like other coordinators are. They want to stay at Indiana. They want to develop the guys underneath these starters who are going to the NFL. So I hope they can do it again and continue to build this legacy with Cignetti, similar to how Saban was at Alabama, right? Like, if they can go on a run here and turn into a blue blood and not just a one-off season where they go crazy and win it all, I hope that they're another national title contender in the Big Ten, just for the conference and for the pride of the school.
Is Indiana a football school now? And a basketball
I would say
state?
so. I would say, I mean, it's their only national title, but in current day, yes, they're a football school. They're going to be number 1 going into next season, ranked, I think, number 1.
Yeah.
I see Notre Dame is favored to win the national title, though, for 2027.
CJ Carr coming back. I wouldn't put it against them. And Kenny Minchie going to Kentucky. I think Kenny's going to have a great year for the Wildcats as well. But the fact that Indiana had, I saw a stat that said they had more people in attendance in Bloomington for their outdoor, kind of welcome the national champions in celebration.
Yeah.
I think it was 0 degrees, maybe even below 0. Than they did for any Big Ten conference game in 2023, the year prior to Curt Cignetti getting there.
That's incredible.
That's called flipping a fan base, man. I mean, obviously, you win the Natty, that's a big deal, but that's insane.
Do you know what the numbers were? Like how many people were there?
I don't know. I didn't see the exact numbers. It was just a stat of there was more people in attendance. It was, there was a lot of people there.
Yeah, it was packed.
For that event, for that moment, and good on Indiana for doing that and having it outside. They probably couldn't have put it anywhere else because they couldn't have a capacity for the people that were there if they moved it inside. So just really cool, and obviously shows you what he's been able to do. What a great hire. Just shows you about Indiana and the Hoosiers of, what happens when you win a national title in 2 years and you flip it like that. But it's a story that, like, I just don't think we're understanding how wild it is that Indiana won the national title. And it's not to them, they expected it, right? But like just in the landscape of college football in general, it's amazing. I think it's great. I'm honored. And it was a great game too. Like what a game that we had, like you said, down to the last drive where it mattered. Carson Beck was moving the ball. They got the penalty. Curt Cignetti didn't like that, right? He's moving it, and then he throws a whole shot pick on it. He tries to really kind of force one, tries to throw a field hole shot against cover 2, the corner sinking back, field safeties rotating, doesn't get it, necessarily the window. The corner does a great job of man turning, sinking back into the hole, tries to make a special play, throws a pick to the field, but was a crazy game. And I mean, good for Carson Beck too. Like Carson Beck got to play in the national championship. Miami was in the Natty.
Yeah.
Which is another interesting thing. Think about this coaching flip and how well it worked for both schools. Mario Cristobal left Oregon to go take his lifelong dream. Miami, grew up in Miami resident. Took his dream job, left Oregon to go to Miami, right? Coached Herbert at Oregon, did a really good job at Oregon, left to go to Miami. Dan Lanning goes to Oregon, both teams in the college football playoff. Both teams have phenomenal coaches. Like usually you don't see something like that happen. Pretty cool coaching swap and how it worked for both squads.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to the Rams-Lions trade when they switched their quarterbacks up with Jared Goff and Stafford. Like it has worked out so far with those two quarterbacks. But talk about Fernando Mendoza more and his gritty performance. Like obviously Coach Cignetti is a fantastic coach, but are they do they win the national title without Mendoza? Does Cignetti
No.
But then again, we're not talking about Cignetti the way we are if Mendoza doesn't play the way he does.
I mean, it's a mutual relationship, right? It works together, but without Mendoza, they don't win the Natty. Without Cignetti, Mendoza isn't the player he is. Fernando Mendoza isn't, the first overall pick. Probably going to be the first overall pick, to the Raiders. Makes total sense. That would be sweet. But the way he played throughout the season, they continued to develop him, continue to push him. They lost their quarterback coach after year 1 to UCLA. Tino Sinceri went to be the offense coordinator at UCLA. They got fired middle of the year. They brought in a new guy. Oh man, I need to look up his name, but did such a great job from a development. Talked about throughout the offseason, they looked at this method called, a PIMP method. So they looked at the protection, what's important. And then at the end of the day, like the priority and what's your plan. So we went through this whole method with him and got a ton of credit. Did a great job. Guys coached at Oregon, with the
Chandler
Chargers
Whitmer
most recently. Yeah, Whit. So, I mean, guys, sharp dressed dude too on the sideline, but just the development from the quarterback perspective is also important, especially when you're bringing in a guy who, Tino Sinceri had been with Curt Cignetti for a long time, but he found somebody he trusted to come in, did a great job developing Fernando Mendoza as well. But I think of, the Penn State game for him right there, playing in Happy Valley, 4th down, cover 0, throws a dot to the back of the end zone to Elijah Surratt. No moment was ever too big for him. The many 3rd down back shoulder balls. I mean, Curtis Rourke the year before at Indiana, quarterback, did a great job. I'm a big fan of Curtis. No Curtis, but Fernando Mendoza elevated it even more to the next level. And then they go out and do what they did this year. But obviously, that just shows you from a guy like who played, even what Max talked about on our podcast a little bit of go somewhere you can play that you love, and then that next spot could be a great opportunity for you.
Yeah.
So Fernando Mendoza did, played at Cal, right? And it worked out for Cal too, because they have a phenomenal young quarterback, JKS. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, who we watched as Gopher fans and alumni absolutely shred the Gophers week 3, might have been week 2. That trade from a quarterback perspective worked out for both teams, but Fernando Mendoza went out, did what he did, went to a great school. And so I think it's like when you look at the quarterback development, it's both, right, from a coach and player perspective, but it worked out for both parties here. And obviously, we're glad to see it for the Big Ten Conference and for Indiana and Mendoza, but it's going to be exciting and interesting to see how they continue to push forward at Indiana.
And obviously they got Mark Cuban on board now, throwing some money at the program, which we've talked about.
He said, just let me know.
Yeah.
He said, let me know how much it costs.
Right. Which we've talked about. The Gophers need someone like that in the state to throw some more money at this program in order to get, the best players that we need to take that next step. Maybe they'll, with the sponsorships allowed on jerseys now, maybe Mark Cuban will finagle a way to have his face on the Indiana Hoosiers football jerseys. Maybe we throw our honorable mentions logo on the Gopher jersey. That could be fun.
Yeah, for
Might
sure. Let's do that. Let's hey, companies just pay us, and then we'll just promote our own logo. We'll just do that. I am really interested though to see what logo ends up on the Gopher jersey. Now, obviously, it should be the HM Pod, but if it's not, who it is? Is it Land O'Lakes? Is it Huntington Bank because of the naming rights there? But I think it's smart, right? Why not do it? It's another way to create revenue, and I think the more that we find creative ways to bring more money into the sport, the better. Which leads into a little bit of the college football playoff expansion talk.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that before we get into tampering. But having 4 teams was crazy. Now getting to where we're at now. Now people are calling for 16 teams. What's your thought on that? Do you think the playoff expansion would allow more for a higher revenue generation to college football? What do you think about the playoff current standing? Because I remember I grew up in the BCS days, right? We grew up watching. There was one national title, and the bowl games were massive, and they were really important. But now you have a national champion through the playoffs, so it's a little bit harder. And let's again not forget about the fact that Miami was the 10 seed.
Yeah, totally.
The 10 seed. And we had an argument of should Notre Dame get in the playoff, but Miami handled their business in the playoff and went out and did it. So what do you think about a 16-team playoff, just in general? And I have a follow-up question.
I think 12 teams is plenty, personally. Like 16 teams, you start talking about Vanderbilt getting in the playoffs, and Vanderbilt got whopped by Iowa in their bowl game. If you look at the guys or the teams that didn't quite make it in the playoffs this year, would they have, had any competition with Indiana or Miami or Oregon or Ole Miss? It goes down to the G5 schools, right? They didn't really stand a chance. I think Vanderbilt would have probably competed better. Notre Dame would have made a 16-team playoff, obviously, but that's kind of an outlier. This past season there was a bunch of different, things with Notre Dame not getting in. They should have, but they didn't. So I think it should stay at 12 teams, but we've talked about this before. They shouldn't have the group of 5 teams in there. They should either have their own playoff or kind of be ranked a little bit differently so that they're not at large one of the top 12 teams. So if we can look at it that way and still have 12 teams, but just like the 12 best and not worrying about getting a couple of G5 teams in there, I think 12 teams would be plenty. Do you think it should be 16, or do you like the 12-team format?
I like 12 teams. I think it depends on how you do 16. I think if they did 16 and moved everything up, and so you went right from conference week to straight into playing, and there's not, and you'd have to move the season up from week 1 to week 0. Everybody starts week 0, and just roll straight through. Then I could see it happening, but I think, let's get into the G5, argument here. Okay. So we saw James Madison. They got smoked this year, right? Okay. Tulane didn't stand a chance against Ole Miss. However, if your argument is, well, I want to see a competitive game, well, Oregon got blown out by Indiana.
Right.
My counter to that would be, though, let's fix the calendar of college football in general before we try to expand to more teams.
Yeah.
Okay, because we're dealing with, obviously the portal just changed, so now it's 1. So, like, the fact that we had teams in the playoff, very focused on, they have 1 window to optimize who they're going to bring in from the portal for the next season, while you're in the playoffs right now currently, just to me, like, I mean, it's not good for the long-term health of the program. So I think, or for the sport. So I think let's figure out the calendar before we talk about expanding teams. That's my opinion, right? And if we're going to do 16, then let's maybe leave, or even go to the FCS playoff. They have 24, but there is no bowl games. If you do the larger we get to this playoff, the no bowl games are going to happen, right? And so now we're looking at, okay, what do we do with bowl games? How does that work? Because it's a celebration of the season, but if you have a 16-team playoff, we're already dealing with a lot of opt-outs. Well, are those bowl games going to be a thing? But then financially, how does that work? How to sometimes teams and conferences rely on that bowl game money, and there's a whole lot of financial infrastructure that goes into that in general too. So my big take is this: like, look, let's figure out the calendar first. Let's lock in a portal window. If it's January, it's January. Let's lock it in. Okay. Let's figure out coaches leaving. How can we figure that out? Can we move the season up? Right. Because we don't need these coaches leaving, taking head coaching jobs in the middle of the season or in the middle of the playoffs.
Right.
That's not good. Right. We don't need, in the NFL, right? There's guys who are Clint Kubiak had 5 head coaching interviews in their bye week, but he's not interviewing when they're still playing. Okay, so teams have to wait for that. That's hard, but you don't have guys that already took a head coaching job, can't sign the contract yet, right? Maybe they can verbally agree to it. So let's look at Clint Kubiak versus Will Stein right now. So Will Stein, the offensive coordinator at Oregon, he had signed as the head coach at Kentucky. Well, Kentucky would have, they couldn't have waited on him, because here's the thing. They had to be recruiting their portal class and high school class to sign those guys before, the Oregon's run would have ended. So compared to Clint Kubiak with the Seahawks, he's interviewing, but he can't take a job until their season is over, even if he had agreed to one verbally to it. Does that make sense? I'm kind of talking all around the subject here, but that's my opinion, is like, I would rather fix the calendar before we fix and just say, well, it's like, when you're married and people think, well, just having children will solve all your problems. I'm not saying I'm in that boat. I love my kids and I love my wife. But you hear about people who say, like, oh, well, people have kids because they think it's going to solve their issues in their marriage. And then they have 1, well, then they need 2, and that doesn't happen. Well, I don't want us to deal with the playoffs the same way and say, well, we'll just add more teams. That'll solve all our problems. No, it's not. It's going to create more problems if we don't figure out the issues of the infrastructure first. That's my problem. And one of the big issues is tampering. So, Quinn, talk about what's going on right now with Clemson and Dabo calling out Pete Golding, because that is a major issue if there's tampering. Tell us about it and tell us your thoughts on what's going on right now with Dabo and Pete.
Yeah, I haven't to be honest, I haven't read too much into it. I just know that Dabo called out Pete Golding for tampering with a player, communicating with him when he couldn't or wasn't allowed to, and then got him to flip to Ole Miss. Is that correct? Or was at least attempting
correct.
to?
I think there's some more behind it, but he had already signed an agreement, and
With
Pete Golding
Clemson.
was like, I don't with Clemson. And allegedly, Pete Golding had continued to text said recruit, linebacker. Linebacker leaves to go to Ole Miss. I mean, I don't even want to throw the name around and get into all that, but basically, what Dabo's taking a stand for: one, I need this guy here in my program, but two, for the betterment of the sport, right? Hey, I'm the one, a guy who's won a national title. You know, Clemson hasn't been the same Clemson in the past 2 to 3 years as they were in the past, but he's taking a stand on tampering in general here against the team who was in the playoff.
Yeah.
And I could see a guy like Dabo Swinney, if they don't say anything against tampering, being done with college football after this year and going and being on TV and doing a bunch of different other things. I don't think that's going to happen. But Dabo is, to me, views it as like Nick Saban, right? Like he's saying, look, I am putting my reputation out here on the line, saying this tampering has got to stop, and it's got to stop now. We have all that evidence, and if we don't make a stand for it, then what are we even doing? I think it's interesting.
Sure.
I think it's going to be really, really unique on how the NCAA rules here and what happens.
Yeah, you don't hear many coaches calling out other coaches in the press. Right?
Yeah,
like, that rarely ever happens. And this one being extremely negative towards that team. So I hope there's something that comes of this with the NCAA and helping Dabo out, just to send a message, like you said. But it's wild what people are doing in order to get the players that they feel they need. But yeah, that's crazy. It definitely shouldn't be happening. And I feel for Dabo, and like if I put myself in Dabo's shoes, I would probably lose my mind.
oh, for sure. I would too. But I mean, it's just the world of the sport now, and kind of where we're at. Unfortunately, it is what it is. So, let's move on from that. We'll be keeping a close eye on it though. But Quinn, I texted you this morning. Did you get a chance to watch the Josh Niblett, tight end coach of Colorado clip?
I did. It fired me up.
Yeah, I mean, fire me up, right? If we can, maybe our editor will be good enough to throw it in here right now. I don't know. We'll see.
Hey, I'm Josh Niblett. I'm the tight ends coach. I know why I'm here. God sent me here. I know that. But I want you to understand something. When your life's all said and done, your career's all said and done, you're going to be known for one of three things when it's all said and done. You're either going to be known for success, survivor, or significance. And what that means is success. It's all about wins, championships, and all that. And all that's great, but that's just about you. And survival, it talks about all the things you overcame in life, all the things, whether it was an injury, whether you lost this person in your life. And you know what? That's still about you. But significance is, can I wake up every day, get out of myself, and get into everybody else? You got me? Because better is the key, man. That needs to be our word in here, better. We're not worried about just being the best. We got to get better every day. All right? So a better you makes a better see you. All right? A better you makes a better see you. And don't forget about this every day you work out. They thought they buried us, but they didn't know we were seeds. You got me? So remember that every day.
I mean, this guy, straight off the high school football, coaching platform, was the high school coach at Hoover, and then for the Red Elephants in Georgia, blanking on the name in Georgia, but former Alabama quarterback himself, Crimson
Wasn't it
Tide.
Gainesville?
This guy has been Gainesville. Yeah, this guy's been a legend of a high school football coach for a long time. Coach Deion Sanders. Last year, that he posted a picture of Coach Niblett visiting Colorado in the spring. Now is the tight end coach for the Colorado Buffaloes. Walks up there, right, and he says, "I know why I'm here, man. God sent me here." And this dude's yoked, by the way. I mean, he's jacked. And he throws this bar of a line talking about becoming better, right? Not just being best, but we have to get better. And a better you is a better CU, Colorado University bar. And then talk about the success, survival, and significance. He talked about the difference between those three, and I don't think he had a long way to talk, but he captivated kind of definitely a football team, definitely a Colorado fan base, and kind of the college football Twitter or college football X world with this. And I mean, some people are saying this guy might be a P4 head coach in the next 5 years, and I'm saying it might not be 5 years. It might be shorter than that.
Yeah, that would be so exciting for him, going from high school to immediately a position coach in the Power Four, and then, if he gets a head coaching job, he'll be one of those coaches that has a clip every day of some saying that he has, or a hype speech that really gets the team fired up. His speech fired me up, but I've never heard a coach talk for such a short amount of time, but send such a powerful message. He talked for 60 seconds. He was up there for 60 seconds, and he talked about the difference between success, survival, and significance. He said at the end of the day, each of us are going to be remembered for either success, survival, or significance. Success being however many rings you have and wins you have and championships and blah, blah, blah. That's what you're remembered by. Survival being what you overcome. You had a huge injury or something happened with your team. Something huge happened with your team that you overcame. Obviously Curt Cignetti has success, but he also has a little bit of that survival in him too, where he overcame the losing his team in college football to take them to new heights. And then significance, where he talks about success and survival is kind of all about you. It's all about what you did and what you accomplished, but significance is how you bettered those around you, how you poured into the guys around you. And that's what he's encouraging the Colorado Buffaloes to do and to be. And he's going to lead that tight end room to, I'm super excited to watch that tight end room this year. I don't know what kind of guys they got there, but I know they got a leader. I know they got a leader that will captivate the audience and really change the mindset around there. So I really love that. I love how he's super, he's pouring into the significance piece. It's not all about you. It's about what you're giving to those around you. It's a team sport, right? And my favorite line was at the end. He said, "They thought they buried us, but they didn't know we were seeds." Which just that imagery is so cool. This guy should be a songwriter. He's incredible. So
He looks like he could be a country star for sure.
I know he's got the cowboy hat with the feather in it. That was sweet. But
yeah.
No, I mean they thought they buried us. They didn't know we were seeds. We were growing underground. Which is so cool, and every team should adapt that to their program. A better you is a better CU. A better you is a better you. You know what I mean? So it can be applied to a bunch of different schools, and yeah, it was just super powerful.
It's good. I mean, he had some bars. Quinn, let's get into audience mention. I'm going to get into this one from Nathan that was submitted to the pod. Love this question. Okay, he said, I'll keep this one shorter now that we're into off-season workouts. What's your guys' best Coach Nickel story? He sure does like blasting that whistle in warm-ups. Yes, he does. Quinn,
Nathan loves
your
hitting us
best
with
Coach
questions.
Nickel story that you can share. Yeah.
This Nathan dude, I don't know him personally, but he's a top tier fan of the pod, dropping questions almost.
Listen,
weekly,
you submit questions and you ask great questions that we'd like to talk about. We're going to talk about them. Yeah. Okay, so keep bringing the heavy hitters, Nathan.
No, it's great. My favorite Coach Nickel story? God, there are so many. Probably, so I believe we were just about to start spring ball. And so there's a little bit of a phase out of winter workouts into spring ball. And I believe it was the year you left, so it was the 2023 season. There's a little bit of a phase into spring ball where workouts are a little bit lighter. You kind of do max out week, see where your numbers are at, and then you get your body prepped for practices. And one of those last workouts before spring ball, we did a circuit where we tied a band around our neck and had it on our feet. And we did band good mornings where you're just hinging at the hip. And then straight from that, banded push-ups. So you wrap the band around your back and do banded push-ups. And that was, I think it was like 5 minutes or something. And you just go back and forth, do 10 at a time. And I remember the next day we walked in and everybody's limping. Everybody's in the training room because their hamstrings are fried. Everybody's in the hot tub, cold tub, trying to get right because we just got cooked in that workout. None of us were ready for it. And Nickel comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, brother, how we feeling?" And I'm like, Coach, we're fried." And we still talk about that to this day. He'll text me and he'll be like, "Get the band good mornings out. Get the band out and hit your good mornings." So me and him go back and forth on that all the time. And it was a killer workout, but he's such a great coach and he loves those guys to death and he'll do anything for you. So even though he'll kill you and he'll blow that whistle directly in your ear, he's for the boys through and through.
He's the best. Such an integral part of the program with what he does. And talk about a guy from 2017 to 2018. I mean, he came in and we had a culture flip moment, right? 2017, we were there. He went from probably one of the most, I would say hated to one of the most loved guys in that facility because you understand how much this guy deeply loves you. And he's a challenger. He's going to push you to be your best on a daily basis. But that dude, like genuinely, like he will give you the shirt off of his back and he's going to push you to be the best player that you can be. And I think that's why all the guys that played for him, like they love him, right? If he rides with you, like he will ride with you to the end, which is such a great quality. I'll tell you a hilarious story. I think it's hilarious. 2018, we just get our brand new facility, right? Beautiful facility. We're in the weight room, probably our first week in the weight room. And one of my former roommates and teammate, Nate Umler, Dog, right? Him and Coach Nickel, right? He would Nickel would blow us up and we're all there clapping, right? And Umler would kind of be in the back, like WWE style, would run in and like shoulder bump him and like get everybody going. It's like, yeah, let's go. Awesome moment. So Umler's back there and he's walking back and forth doing his John Cena WWE entrance. And again, brand new weight room, brand new $200+ million facility. Nate Umler comes sprinting at Dan Nickel, and Nickel hits him with a whoop, and he dodges it, and Umler runs through the wall and puts a massive hole in the drywall. A massive hole in the drywall, all because Nickel, instead of wearing it, which usually he would always wear it, be like, "Yeah, that's all you got, dog. That's all you got. That's it.
Yeah,
that's right. It. You gotta strike more. Right?" And so, like, Umler's hitting him pretty hard, like, and he does this with a lot of guys, right? And this dude dodges him, and Umler puts a massive hole, right? And I think what was to close the story, right? So instead of fixing it right away, because you have to make a call in, they put we put a sign over it like hyperculture, row the boat. I can't remember exactly what the sign is. And the next day in the team meeting, Coach Fleck put it up in the team meeting, and it was just the hole in the wall, and the whole team starts dying laughing. Because Umler was nervous of like, am I going to get in trouble for this? The whole team is dying laughing on what's going on. It just one of those hilarious moments of Coach Nickel. I've got a million, and then I'll close on the second one.
You always got
everybody who I always have two, right? Is my numbers, just what I do, indecisive, whatever. I mean, Coach Nickel gets after it. I mean, he gets after it. And everybody who's been associated with the Gopher football program at any level would know what I'm about to say. You will, on occasion, walk in when he's getting a lift in and he has a time to get a 30, 35, 40, 45-minute lift in. And it's like fast paced. He's getting after it when he's lifting. He doesn't have much time to just sit there and, joke around like he's getting after it. And his music of choice, full bagpipes, full tilt. Just the Dan Nickel getting after it to the bagpipes. When you walked into the facility and you hear the bagpipes, it's like, all right, coach is getting
Time to
after
go.
it. We got to lock in today. So I think I love that, right? Everybody knows the bagpipes thing, and I think that's great. But those are two. We could tell stories of Dan Nickel for days.
Gosh.
But that Umler one just came to my mind immediately because it was hilarious. And then the way that Coach Fleck handled it too, so good. I mean, yeah,
I wish I was there for that.
Great dude. I missed those guys. That was, prime. I mean, literally a week into the facility, like not even finished a full week. So we're all getting used to new locker room, new everything, and pretty special to go through that. All right, Quinn. I'm gonna just kind of summarize maybe we got a couple more questions. They're I'll summarize two of them, right?
Okay. Yeah.
No secret, the offensive line didn't perform run blocking last year, and this question puts it due to a lack of physicality. New right tackle from Tennessee coming over this year, but the other four guys are the same. How do you improve physicality up front is basically the question. With mostly the same guys. How would you take that?
I think it goes back to Coach Nickel, right? And he prides himself on that, on the trenches. He was a D lineman, like a nose tackle. He actually played with John Cena.
Hilarious, by the way. Exactly. John Cena was his like senior mentor at Springfield College. What?
Springfield, yeah.
John Cena and Dan Nickel. Amazing.
Yeah. But as far as physicality goes, that's a mentality thing. Like you wouldn't be there if you weren't big enough. You wouldn't be there if you didn't have the potential to be strong enough or already strong enough as a transfer. So it's a mental thing. Every play, trying to dominate the guy across from you, trying to put him on his back, not necessarily, just shielding or getting in front of him, right? Like we have some great running backs, a phenomenal quarterback, where sometimes just getting in the way gets the job done and he, DT springs one. But at the end of the day, it comes down to how are you attacking this rep? How are you attacking practice and building your physicality, building that toughness and tenacity? So in the off season, whether that's through winter workouts or mat drills or spring ball, really grinding on that mentally as a team, as the offensive line, the leadership up front with Callie, with Coach Nickel, with Coach Fleck. It's a mentality in that room. And that's what I tried to build with the guys around me. And I hope that kind of has permeated as I've left. And I know our guest, Greg Johnson, is doing a great job of building on that still. But it's a mentality thing in order to put your hand in the dirt and know that I need to dominate this guy and not just get in front of him. That's what will show on film.
Mm-hmm.
That's what will show a more physical offensive line and a more nasty offensive line. What do you think? You played with some great offensive linemen.
The physicality thing. I mean, I think there's a common denominator between all of them is they have that physicality, and sometimes recruiting is hard because you don't know O-line, recruiting offensive linemen from the high school perspective is the hardest position to project what they're going to turn into. It's not as easy as people might think. That's why you're going to miss on high school guys from an offensive line perspective because you just don't know how that piece goes, especially when you have guys who are maybe bigger growing into that frame, right? High school tight ends that are 6'7" that you want them to be tackles. You don't know. You don't know how they're going to project. Nick Callerup's a perfect example. He played tackle a little bit in high school because the team needed him to play offensive tackle, but he was a tight end. Well, That's one example of they knew from a tight end perspective that guy had a physicality that he could bring. Had no idea what he would turn into as a walk-on who went to an NFL 53-man roster guy this year as a rookie, making the team from the UDF as a UDFA. So it's hard to project that, but I think when you look at the transfer portal, it's a little bit easier because you have real tape, and I think that's one thing they did a great job of, bringing in guys that they knew would bring that physicality aspect to what they wanted to do. And, Brian Callahan does a great job of that. I'm sure Matt Limegrover and Callahan working together is going to be awesome. And
Yeah.
for sure they're going to pull the best out of those guys to bring the physicality up front, because you have to have it. They know they need to be better at it in that way. But it starts with challenging them, right? And from the coaching perspective, you got the right coaches in charge to do that.
Yeah,
But
I
I
think
mean,
it
it's hard, man. It's hard to recruit O-linemen.
yeah, it really is. But physicality, that mental piece, it spreads through the entire team. Every position has to have that. They bring in a dude like John Nestor from Iowa,
Right.
and he is lighting dudes up. Like, he plays physical as hell. So if I'm on the sideline as an offensive lineman, defense is on the field, and I watch John Nestor light up a dude in the backfield, I'm like, okay, let's go. Like, that fires me up for the next drive to be a little bit more physical than the last. So I hope that it permeates throughout the entire team. Last question before we get into our guest. For a future episode, would love for you both to dive deeper into what things change development-wise for each of our positions. He said, Tanner, you touched on the lights kind of coming on, that lights on moment for you. So basically just talk about that a little bit more on kind of when the lights came on for you, when it comes to college football, when you feel like it really slowed down, and that development for you.
Yeah, I think if we take it that way in terms of when do things from a developmental standpoint go from being your mind is racing to things finally slow down and it clicks mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but development in general of quarterbacks and of athletes has changed over the past couple of years for sure, and really over the past 10 years, how you approach development. I think of quarterback wise, teams are a lot less likely to develop guys, or guys are less likely to stay and be developed so that they can have that moment. Some guys are leaving
Mm-hmm.
before they get that lights on moment in college football right now, or they're not getting the chance to because coaches need a guy who's proven to go in because their job's on the line. And so that
Yeah.
hurts development in general when you look at it that way, which is what Max Brosmer said, is go to a place where you're going to play and where you're going to be developed.
Right.
Okay, right. Drake Lindsay is a perfect example of that. Sat behind Max Brosman for a year. Boom, starts his next year, and I mean that jump of what he's going to have his redshirt sophomore year. I'm excited to see what it's going to be like. But for me, I think it goes from you go from knowing it and understanding how to explain it to actually being able to react and do it. Right.
Yeah.
So it's the difference between knowing and doing. That sounds like common sense, but it's completely different when you have 3 to 4 seconds to go and make a decision and react in real time, right? The physical standpoint of I can do it. And there's the mental standpoint of letting it click to go out and actually accomplish what your brain is telling you to do and have the confidence to do so. I think that's the balance of, you don't know necessarily all the layers that go into development on when it's going to click for somebody. But what you have to do is you have to have all the pieces. You have to have the mental piece of studying, the tape, the physical standpoint from the gym, from the nutrition to the diet to the sleep to the stretching to the mobility to the training room, to all the pieces go into, then at some point it's going to click for a player.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't click for guys. Let's be honest, right? Sometimes it doesn't click at that level and they need to go somewhere else, or it doesn't click in that specific environment and you need to go somewhere else, and that's okay.
Right.
But for me, I think it's just the moment in time where you put all the pieces together and you go, and I could explain it on the board like I was a coach
Yeah.
to a degree, right?
Well, yeah.
But
you
then
could.
it's the aspect of the functional intelligence piece of going to do it, right? And I think as a young player, that's the difference, because it's all taking all the mental piece, and then physically you're continuing to develop, and you always do, until the moment where you actually sit back and realize, like, I really, really can be successful at this. And so it always goes back to me of that moment of knowing and doing, but then you don't know all the pieces that go into the puzzle of which one is going to be most important, and then ultimately when it's going to click for somebody. Your job is to develop. And I tell guys all the time from the high school quarterback standpoint is, you're in charge of your own development. You have to take ownership of it, because if you don't take ownership of it, you're not going to get to the level you need to get to, especially in today's game, right? From a mechanic standpoint, from a fundamental standpoint, all those things. Obviously, coaches are pouring into these guys, but if they don't take ownership of their development, they'll never get to that lights on moment, because they have to own it and ask for it. But I could go on a soapbox of that. But what do you think about that lights on kind of just development in general? We could spend a whole pod talking about developing.
This might be a little bit biased towards offensive linemen, but I think it relates to all positions. Knowing and doing, but doing in a game setting. Like you can practice all you want, right? But that's just so much more controlled. Even if you're in a live setting, it's controlled. Like you're kind of thrown into a position in practice, like coach setting up a 2-minute drill or something like that. Like it's not happening in real time, right? And so having those game reps is what really changed my development. Like I practiced and practiced and practiced at Notre Dame and got better fundamentally, but it wasn't until I got that time on the field with the lights on that I really took huge strides in my development as a player. And when I came to Minnesota, started my first game, and it was just game after game that I was continuing to develop, and it really slowed down for me. So yes, I agree with you, knowing and doing, but doing in game is just so much more crucial. And that's why I think we see a lot of guys transferring when they're not getting that time in game because they want to develop more. And if they're going to not play on Saturdays, they're going to transfer to somewhere that they can play to develop even further.
Yeah, it's like if you look at practices in general, right? You go from, can you do it in a walkthrough? So you know where to go. Physically, it's not, right? You have to go do it. But can you do it in a walkthrough and know what you're supposed to do and where you're supposed to go? Then can you go do it in Indy, right? Then if you can do it in Indy, can you do it in routes on air? Or can you do it in one-on-ones? Then can you do it in a 7-on-7 or a 5-on-5 or a, right? If you're a O-line, D-line, that heavy one-on-ones situation. Okay, well then can you go do it in a team period? Then can you go do it in a team specific period of red zone or seven or team whatever? And then can you do it in live situation? But we'll wrap that up, and then Quinn, let's intro our guest, the one and only Greg Johnson.
Yes. So excited to have this guest this week. We got Greg Johnson, veteran offensive lineman for the Gophers from Prior Lake, Minnesota. Greg, welcome to the pod.
Yeah, thanks for having me, boys. Excited.
Greg, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Looking good. Hey, tell us about your decision to come back, dude. We're fired up to have you for your senior season. That leadership is crucial, but tell us a little bit about that decision.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really a hard decision. Coming back for my fourth year, getting one last go with these boys is gonna be really fun, and especially when I get to come back and play with guys like Drake and DT, that's going to be a lot of fun. So, yeah, excited for it.
Love it. What excites you most?
Greg, I have a question for you.
Sorry, Tanner.
No. I want to hear what excites Greg Johnson the most about this upcoming year and then their offensive line and how they're going to continue to get better. I want to hear that.
Yeah. I think we left a lot on the bone last year when it comes to the offensive line. And, I put, a lot of that on me as well. So just to, come back and prove that, Minnesota is going to be a dominant offensive line is really one of the biggest things. So, yeah, just making sure our O-line is going to be a tough physical group up front and, help lead those guys. And then for myself, I know I got a lot to improve on as well in run and pass game. So, helping my skills and keep getting better every day, and then bring the other guys along with me.
I love it. The Minnesota Movers. Can you talk to us about, right? You're from Prior Lake. You're a Laker, right? Just talk to us about the Minnesota high school football scene when you were coming up. Like what tell us something really good that maybe somebody that's not from the state doesn't understand about the quality of play here in the state of Minnesota. From both of you guys, Quinn from Medina, right? Last year's state champions. You're from Prior Lake. There's good talent here. Just anything that comes to your mind with Minnesota high school football. What is it?
I feel like it's pretty underrated, to be honest. Everyone thinks just like, down south is like all football, but people care about Minnesota football, and every week there's always a kind of sneaky guy who is a really good football player. Like I can think of Carson Hansen from Lakeville South. Everyone thought it was just the triple option offense, but he goes to Iowa State and has had a great career so far. And Even guys like Hayden Bills, who, he was more known for track, but when I played him in football, he was a dog. So, there was weekly matchups for me personally that, helped me get better. But it's really cool to see the game like growing in Minnesota, and, guys start doing extra training and stuff. And I've noticed it a lot with the offensive line where, guys are training more, and it's, helping them on the field.
So talk about you coming out of
Uh,
high school. Like, was
yeah.
it always the Gophers for you, or what played into that decision, and was it an easy one for you?
Yeah, well, this is like an interesting story because I watched NFL mainly growing up. Wasn't like huge into college football, so when it came to getting recruited, I really obviously I liked Minnesota because it's my hometown, but um, I was going on a bunch of visits. I went on to a junior day here with like a bunch of people, and didn't seem like they were very interested in me. So I was like, all right, well, we'll see where that goes. And next day, I'm on another visit elsewhere, and I get a call from Coach Callie, wanting me to get up there for another visit. So ever since then, went on quite a few visits. It's easy since I live so close, and they actually offered Martin, one of my teammates at Pearl Lake, a day before me. So he committed, and then once I got offered, I knew I didn't want to go anywhere else, and it was pretty easy to commit.
That's awesome. Now that you're a vet, right? Like, how's it feel? Like, when did you realize that you're now the older guy yelling about footwork, as opposed to being that young freshman who, just naturally had enough talent to play right away?
Yeah, me and my roommates were just talking about that the other day. Like, it's crazy that we're the old guys now, and it's our team. So, um, yeah, I mean, last year I got a little bit of a taste of it, being one of the leaders in that room. But this year, just trying to put guys every day, be that voice, is going to be super important.
Can you talk about that phrase? I mean, we talk about leadership all the time from a player perspective, and you talked about, older guys, our team. When you hear that phrase, right, it's a player led team, but what does that mean to you as going into your last year of eligibility? When you think about leadership, the people that you've been able to be blessed to play with, what does it mean to you when you say like it's our team, and kind of, when you're thinking about the leaders and the guys that you have in mind when you think about that? But talk about that phrase in general of our team. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I feel like every year, every team is different. Last year's Minnesota team's going to be a lot different than this year. And I really think that starts with the leadership and the leadership of the older guys. Like you said, leadership comes in many different ways. There's guys who are vocal, there's guys who lead by example. So, when I say it's our team, it's really just the seniors coming together and, making the standard, and making sure guys are getting to that standard. And yeah, so I think it really just comes down to the older guys' leadership, because if we want to be a good team this year, we got to be player led, and we're going to make sure that happens.
What are some things you're doing practically to make sure you're upholding the standard and making sure young guys are following in those footsteps?
Yeah, when it just starts, like, this is our first week back, and we're teaching guys how to do the warm up and all this stuff. So, just because you're new doesn't mean that you get a extra breathing room. Like, the standard is the standard. So if guys aren't +3 in, or guys are trying to cut corners, that even if it's not on purpose, just making sure that, um, you know, they're getting right with that. And then just leading by example and the drills, and, being someone guys can look to and see how it's supposed to be done.
For sure. Um, Tell the fans about
We had
your
a
leadership
Greg,
style.
this
My
and
lead-
what is leadership to you, Greg? Like when we talk about leadership, like what does it mean to lead?
I think, like we already kind of touched on, it's just like everyone is a different leader. And I think it's super important to be authentic when you're, trying to be a leader. I feel like guys can sense when something is fake or being pushed. So, my version of leadership is I'm going to try to be a guy who leads by example, but also, you know, be that vocal piece when I need to. And if something needs to be said, I'm going to say it.
I love it. When I think of great leaders, one of the great leaders I think of is the strength coach Dan Nickel, who you're spending a lot of time with right now,
Yeah.
in terms of off-season development, mat drills, all the things that go into it, right? And we had a great question from a fan that said, "What's your favorite Dan Nickel moment?" Right. So I'm going to ask you the same question. I'll quickly share you mine. Um, it was we first got the facility. I'm dating myself with that, right? And we had a teammate who would run and bump up to Nickel when he called it up, and Nickel dodged him, and he put a huge hole in the wall, like our first week in the brand new facility, right? So that was the story I told. Um, but when we're talking about leadership, we're talking about Dan Nickel. You spent a lot of time with him. What is one of your favorite Dan Nickel moments that you can share on a public podcast? And I cannot wait to hear this.
Yeah. I would say my favorite story is, normally before like certain breaks of the year, that last workout is, a game. So, we're going into this workout thinking we're going to be playing dodgeball or wiffle ball or something like that. And, we get brought up and he says, "We're not playing effing wiffle ball." And we're like, all right, we're still thinking this is like a part of the bit. And, all of a sudden we do our warm up and we're like, all right, like, when's this going to start? Then we go to our stations and it gets to about rep 3 and I realize like he's not joking. So we ended up having a tough workout that day and the whole team completely thought that we were about to go play some wiffle ball.
Dude, that's the worst. Okay, let's talk about that quickly because the rumor mill for that gets going around real quick, right? It's been 3-4 years since I played or been in the building, but I remember I couldn't be the guy to let my mind go of like, hey, where the wiffle ball bats at? Like, hey, did you go check the stores? The wiffle ball's out. Like, now like think, especially in the summer, you got 55s or mad drill day. Um, Tell us a little bit about that in general, right? Because it's something that dates all the way back to Coach Fleck at Western Michigan of, mixing it up of when that game comes in, you remove a hard workout and you compete, right? You're playing a game and competing. But bring us into like kind of the rumor mill, how that spreads and how you deal with that. Because I remember one time very specifically the same. It was a morning. We had I'll give an example that we were gonna get brand new jerseys. And Max Williams actually was one of the demonstrator guys of the jerseys who we've had on the pod before. And we're all like in the team meeting room, like, oh, it's lit because we had to wear jerseys to the event. And then it's like, all right, see you in the indoor. And everybody was like, man, what? Like, we're actually going to go do mat drills. So, talk about how that kind of goes around and how you can't let your mind get into that.
Yeah, well, there's been like 2 that I can remember just off the top of my head. Like once there was the wiffle ball rumor circling and all of a sudden one guy goes and checks the indoor and there's bases set up. So we're all like, oh, like, here we go. And then like guys are trying to like peek in there and everyone's like, dude, get away. Like, we don't need to ruin this surprise.
Right.
So yeah, that's one. And then once we as a team went to the basketball facility and played dodgeball and everyone like was kind of talking about it, but you don't really know. So it's tough because you can't like fully get there because if you actually have a workout, you're screwed.
Yeah, that's good. I love it. That's funny. That makes me just think about it because you literally, it's like all day. You're like, are we? I had to be locked in and ready. But like, if he blows it up, like, all right, okay.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Quinn, I know you had a bunch of great questions for Greg. What was the one, the next like really important question that you wanted to ask him?
Well, yeah, just transitioning into like your mentality throughout the season. Walk us through kind of like your film throughout the week, what you're actually looking for, what the fans might not understand of what you're looking for as an offensive lineman and how you prepare yourself for your opponent every Saturday.
Yeah, I think my preparation has changed over time. I know like you really like to watch pass rush cut-ups, and I kind of took that piece from you. But going into this year, I kind of learned that if I watched just straight up pass rush cut-ups that it would, I'd get to the game and I'd be thinking too much and I would be trying to like predict what moves they're going to do, and it put me in a bad position. So I've kind of simpled down my preparation, especially moving from center to guard. I don't, I'm not making the ID calls, so I don't have to like really refresh on that as much either. So yeah, I really like to just watch game film, especially of teams who have a similar offensive style as us, and take certain pieces from those, and then I'll watch specific players a little bit and see what kind of player they are and how they defend the run and pass, and then yeah, and just keep sharpening it up over the week.
Yeah, you talked about you played center your first year as like a full-time starter. You've played center, you've played left guard, left tackle, right tackle, all games that you've started at those positions. So talk about that versatility and how important that is to the team, to your development, as being able to sell yourself as a versatile player, going into this year and hopefully the NFL after that. So how crucial is that to play where you're needed for the team, to be better and for you to be better?
Yeah, I take a lot of pride in that. Things happen throughout the year, whether it be an injury or something like that, where guys got to move around. So to be able to play all 5 spots is something I take a lot of pride in. I think center was huge for me, just to be able to learn the game of football more and understand what we're actually trying to do on the offensive side. And then it helped me play a lot faster at the other spots. So um, yeah, playing tackle is a fun experience. I've never had to do that yet in the Big Ten. So Ohio State was a little bit of a wake up call being out there on the silent count. And then Purdue game, I went to right tackle, and I've never really played the right side in my life. But I take it as a challenge and try to do the best I can for my team. And I ended up having a lot of fun doing it.
How did you like that? Like, how did you like playing tackle? Obviously, it's a different world out there as opposed to playing inside. But did you enjoy playing tackle, or were you a lot more comfortable inside?
I mean, I think you're going to be more comfortable inside when that's all the reps that you've gotten, whether it be spring ball, fall camp. But I would get reps here or there at tackle just in case. And, when it came to the week, I'd have the full week to prepare for it. So, really the biggest things for me were just making sure my aiming points were right, because it's just different angles. And then when it comes to pass game, you got to set deeper. That was something big for me because, at guard, you're just in this little box, and tackle, you got to make sure you get out there and get some depth. So, yeah, it was really just about refining my set and certain things like that throughout the week. And then when it came time for the game, I was able to play pretty fast.
Yeah, and for the fans out there, it's so crucial for Cali to have Greg on that offensive line to be able to fill him in at any spot when needed. Like somebody goes down, having a guy like Greg to jump out from center or guard to play left tackle against Ohio State, like that's so crucial. Not a lot of teams have that. Um, so going into your third year as a solidified starter coming up here, um, this was actually an audience mentioned question that we answered before you hopped on. But what at what point did it really slow down for you? Like where the lights came on and you were like, holy shit, I can really do this. Like this is slowed down, allow you to play a lot freer, a lot faster. At what point did that click?
I would say halfway through my sophomore year when I was playing center. I kind of had a rough start to the year where I wasn't playing as good as I should have been. And I sat down with Coach Harbaugh actually, and we just kind of made a plan on how I should attack things in the week leading up to the game, because my preparation was not where it needed to be. So once I did that and made a plan and attacked that, then I was really just flying around on game day, not thinking. And then, the move to guard helped that even more this past year, just because I don't have to make those ID calls and I can just go out there and play super fast. So, yeah, I would say halfway through my sophomore year is when I really started to feel good.
That's great. Well, you're talking about playing as a young guy, as a sophomore. Um, when I was at the U in 2018, one of our things was the road to maturity, MAH, Sky U maturity. And the definition of maturity is when doing what you have to do becomes doing what you want to do. It bleeds out of me, Greg. It bleeds out of me. You know
There
it,
you go.
right? So, um, just talk about maturity, man, because you were a guy who got put in a lot of tough situations. You got thrown into it early on, right? And that a lot of guys can take that one or two ways. It can they either rise to the occasion or they get that early taste and they never kind of live up to what they could be from their potential. What does maturity mean to you from a guy who's now in the older seat as a senior to from a guy who's been that young dude that got thrown in there and had to be ready to go make plays when maybe you weren't fully at that level of thinking that, oh, what does it look like? You talked about halfway through your sophomore year, sitting down with Harbaugh and coming up with a plan. What does maturity mean to you as a senior now, leading, a phenomenal group of men? What does it mean to you from the young guy to as now? How do you continue to mature? Like, take it wherever you want to go, but maturity. Why is it important, and what does it look like in a player?
Yeah, well, I think for me, it started early enrolling as a freshman and from high school. You know, the fans may not know what an O line room is like, but when you're 17 years old coming into a room with some 23-year-olds, it takes some adjusting. So I think that really helped me mature, and getting around the older guys like Quinn, Coop, Tay, all of them, kind of forced me to mature really quick. And then playing early, I've said this multiple times, but I probably wasn't ready to play as a true freshman. That was really hard. And, looking back, it wouldn't have been the worst thing if I got to sit for a year and learn from the good guys ahead of me. But it also forced me to mature, and, those game reps are huge. So, but, now when I think about maturity, I really think it's, we say you have to be a pro before you're a pro. And I really think it's just that mindset of, taking things serious and, trying to be a pro in everything you do.
That's great. That's a bar. Going back to who you've played with from a quarterback perspective, right? When I think of maturity, I think of Drake Lindsay and what he did his first year as a full-time starter. You got a chance to play with Max Brosmer, 23, Ethan Kaliak-Manis. Ethan didn't have a great year for the Gophers, but, did pretty well at Rutgers this year from a statistic and a lot of other things standpoint. But what goes into the O-line QB relationship and what makes you really trust a quarterback? Obviously, I don't think you ever didn't have trust in Drake. Everybody, all the things that were coming out of camp and all the people who know were really excited to see Drake get his chance to go be the starter. But talk about just the O-line QB relationship and how you guys develop trust and continue to do that on a year in, year out and week in, week out basis.
Yeah, I think it's super important for both sides to trust each other. And I think Drake does a really good job of that by getting us around each other. And, as something small as those QB O-line dinners weekly before the games, like that stuff just connects you. And I think Drake did a really good job of coming in as a true freshman, and he was already hoisted in the backup spot. So, he was forced to mature very quickly as well. And Max did a good job taking him under his wing. But, Drake just has this commanding presence where, people listen to him. And when he's in the huddle, he can take command. And, I just think he does a really good job with that. I can't say enough good things about him.
Nice.
So with the transfer portal playing a huge role this year, bringing in a kid from Tennessee to hopefully be a guy at tackle for you guys, how much does the portal kind of mess with O-line chemistry, and how are you as the leader of that room really bringing that guy in, to mesh with the rest of the line so that you guys are playing 5 as one?
Yeah, well, I was on his official visit and just wanted to get around him, see what kind of guy he's like. And, I feel like he's a really good fit for our room. Kind of reminds me of Ariante, like personality-wise. But yeah, he's worked his ass off to start this first week. And when it comes to transfers, like coming into the room, I really like how, we just got one guy and he knows he's going to have to compete and earn that right tackle spot. And then, kind of sends a message to the other guys that there's some other open spots and someone's going to have to go win it.
Yeah, I love it. So entering your last year of eligibility, what legacy do you want to leave as an offensive lineman for the Gophers, whether that's to the entire team or just that O-line room? What is going to be Greg Johnson's legacy at the U?
Yeah, really just leave it better than I found it, and making sure that this O-line room gets back to, why I committed here, and that it's a dominant offensive line, and really just get back to, how Minnesota football should be played, which is running the rock.
I love it.
Hey,
dude.
your new running back coach did that really well. When I was his teammate, Mo Ibrahim Jr. Darius Taylor does a great job of that too, but Mo Ibrahim ran that rock, baby.
Yeah, fired up, he's back.
Yeah, dude, I'm so excited for him and for you guys, the run unit, just the team in general. Really, really cool to see. Quinn, if you don't have any other questions, let's highlight. Greg, where are you at right now? And by the way, we're filming on Sunday afternoon at 2:00 when there's a NFL playoff game going on right now. Greg, what are you doing right now?
And
Brevin's Barbershop.
Barbershop.
Shout out BSF. Brevin's Barbershop, about to get some recovery work in. So if you're wondering what these guys are doing, they're worried about becoming better players and taking care of their bodies because this is a critical moment for them in their careers. So Greg, thank you for what you're doing to become the best player you can be. But let's talk about the honor roll. The honor roll basically is you get to shout out something that you really like. It could be football related. It could be non-football related. We talked about one off air. Cade McConnell was Drake's because he just thinks Cade's a good guy. Obviously with Bussin, he got destroyed on social media from the Iowa Hawkeyes. Did you see that, by the way?
I sent it to him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a dishonorable mention. My Lord, they bodied him. Cade, we love you. We will always stand behind you, but they got the best of you on that time, brother. We're sorry. So you're familiar because you're a listener to this podcast. So what we'll do is we'll let you go last. And if Quinn has any other questions, we can fill in there and take the conversation where it goes. But Quinn, give us your honor roll of the week.
All right, so this could technically be taken as a dishonorable mention, but my honor roll is a remote starter for your car. Dishonorable mention, mine died this week, and it's like the coldest week in Minnesota history. So I haven't been able to pre-start my car before I go anywhere. So I've been getting into a freezing cold car. My honor roll is when that actually works, so you can get into a nice warm and toasty car, even though it's negative 20 outside.
That's good. I love that. Now, Greg, as your listener, I usually do too because I can, right? The first like one, that? My first honor roll. Yeah, right. The first the first honor roll I'm gonna give is the fact that yes, it's negative 30 or whatever. But I got family in Virginia and Kentucky, and they got a lot more snow than we did. So my honor roll is hearing them complain about snow. As a Minnesotan now who understands, like, all right, cool, like you got snow once, get used to it, whatever. So that's an honor roll, even though it's very cold. My second honor roll is going to be a little throwback because Greg's sitting there in the Brevin's Barbershop right there, and probably going to get his hair cut later, but he's got too good a lettuce to do that. My second honor roll is going to be the moment in an off-season training where you finish a Friday lift and you got after it all week long. I mean, it was a grinder of a week and it's Friday and you're like, go get lunch if it's a morning lift or dinner after. And you're like, it's going to be a good weekend, boys. It's going to be a good one.
Got the EDM going in the weight room.
Yeah, right. That is awesome. I love that that's still going on, right? You walk up the stairs and it's EDM house music on that's only played when the week is over of the work. Now you got volunteer work. Greg's in there on a Sunday getting after it. But that is a good feeling that sports allows. And so that's my honor roll. And you just fired me up that the house music, the EDM's going on Friday after lifts. That's sweet.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Greg, your honor roll.
I'm going to go with having a guy's back. For example, you know, hey, we're playing Wisconsin. They hit DT a little bit late on their sideline. I don't think there's anything better than just a squad of guys just rushing to the sideline, making sure everything's good. And same can go for practice.
I love
that. Practice,
Greg, if you have a clip of that,
practice, man, gets the boys going.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, dude. Greg, if you have a clip of that, I don't care if it's all 22 film. If you have a clip of the boys protecting someone on the sideline, please send it to me, because that's got to make it on social media.
I'll do some research.
Research, and I think let's go deeper into that. In practice, there's nothing better than watching O-line, D-line guys get into it. You know they're boys, but just like one little, like, you know, get especially in training camp, right? Like you're pushing each other. You want to win the one-on-one battle, pass pro, whatever. That's amazing. I'm gonna let you into one thing that in training camp always helped me. My offensive lineman used to make fun of me if I missed a throw. They'd just chirp me, be like, "Yeah, nice throw, Morgan. Good ball, bud. You know, it's pretty good throw. Now it's third down, huh? Why don't you figure it out?" But love those guys. Greg, we are so thankful to have you on the Honorable Mention podcast. Thank you for your honor roll. Thank you for taking the time to do this. We would love if you guys would like, follow, and subscribe. Really helps us out with the algorithm and all that jazz, all that math. But Greg, thanks for coming on. Can't wait to have you back on the podcast. And we're fired up for you and all the Gophers heading into this 2026 football year. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, boys. It was fun.
Thanks, Greg.
Go
Appreciate
enjoy
you,
the
brother.
week. Enjoy the winter.
Yeah.